大家好，我係區永權。大家認識我啦，可能係一個節目主持、大會司儀。咁但係其實我一個咧同樣非常之重要嘅身份，我就係兩個仔嘅爹哋。嗱，一個咧就12歲，一個係11歲。我冇同好多家長一樣啊，都考慮過曾經好唔好送佢哋去海外讀書升學咧？但係有好多疑問，點算好咧？嗱，今日我非常之榮幸啊，能夠邀請到咧就係 EF Academy 英國牛津校區校長 Mr. Mark Fletcher-Single 一解答我所有想問嘅問題。Hi Mark.
Hello, lovely to see you, and thank you for inviting me this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you so much. 嗱 ，Mark 咧相當之犀利啊，有20年豐富嘅寄宿學校啊，以及係國際教育管理嘅經驗。嗱，佢相當之了解咧就係英國教育制度啊，以及咧就係寄宿學校嘅文化。嗱，其實今次能夠同 Mark 傾偈咧係一件好難得嘅事，所以咧我哋早前咧已經收集晒咧 Baby Kingdom 呢啲家長佢哋嘅疑問啦，同埋我本人好想知道問題，一次過問晒 Mark。嗱，咁當然第一個問題咧就係好想問，其實英國咧就係好多香港人咧選擇升學嘅地方。Mark， 我想問有啲咩吸引之處咧？其實
Okay, I think obviously the United Kingdom has a long history of welcoming international students, certainly sort of, in secondary school age as well as university and of course postgraduate as well. And I think something that sort of, attracts international families is certainly that over sort of centuries, the UK have managed to actually develop these educational systems to be world-renowned, to be sort of recognised globally. And it's not just that sort of that quality of education, it's also how well it is actually sort of translated, how well it is actually recognised, whether it be in mainland China, in Hong Kong, America, Australia, mainland Europe. It effectively is a gateway into sort of further education and also potentially a global career.
我哋講到咧，就係送小朋友去第二啲地方升學啦。其實咧，即係家長係好想，咁但係小朋友仲好細個啊嘛，唔好捨得噶嘛。咁 Mark 有啲咩建議俾佢哋咧
？First of all, it's important to sort of recognise that I think it's the support we actually need to be giving parents before we actually start to give the support to the students. They are sort of young people are very robust and sort of in such environments they've got many friends, many things to do, and they're kept busy. So it's an environment that they love. As independent UK sort of boarding professionals, we're asking parents to entrust the most precious thing in the world to them, to us. So I think what's really important is that parents certainly, they visit the schools, they go and have a look, they see for themselves the environment in which their daughters, their sons will be living, as they walk around the school, they will meet their children's potential new friends. How do they seem? When you walk past them, do they say hello? Do they hold a door open for you? Are they smiling? So I think actually getting a feel of a school is incredibly important. I also think that parents must not be afraid to ask questions which they may think it's such a small thing, I can't ask a school this. Yes, you can. And those questions are things such as, if my daughter has an upset tummy, who do they talk to? And talk to the school. Literally go to the school, when you visit or either by Zoom, and talk to the person who your daughter, your son would be going to and saying, I've got an upset tummy, I've lost my school bag, I don't quite understand this maths homework, I want to join this activity. And I would say reassure yourselves by connecting with the school in the first instance and talking to the people who will be looking after your children on a day-to-day basis. And I think that sort of the response that you get, and probably as a parent, the feel that you get from that sort of response is the marker, and you will know whether or not it is the right school for your children that you know.
咁啊係啊，即係有時係啲家長咧唔係太過想放手，唔捨得啲小朋友去寄宿啊。咁可唔可以同你講下，到底英國嘅高中學制又係點嘅咧？
Now, as students sort of start school, obviously they do all subjects sort of very broadly. And as they sort of progress through school, those subjects that they choose begin to narrow. So the first narrowing we actually see when they choose their GCSE options in year 10 or age 14. And those GCSE options, they still have to be choosing maths, English, science, humanities, and art, but they are effectively choosing subjects and not continuing with others. After GCSEs, they go on to A-levels or the IB programme. The vast majority in the UK actually follow A-levels. And at A-levels, that's when they choose 3 subjects, so actually quite quickly it narrows, but those 3 subjects, although they choose in a narrow format, they actually study them very, very deep.
咁英國嘅公立啦、私立同埋文化嘅學校其實有啲咩分別嘅咧
？In the UK, we have public and private schools. We have the state sector, and then within the state sector, we have grammar schools. So, a clear sort of division is the public schools, the private schools, and they are schools that are fee-paying schools. So parents are actually sort of opting, they are choosing a particular school and paying for their daughters or their sons to attend that school, usually because those schools have smaller class sizes and perhaps a specialism in a particular area. The state sector is where all children have the entitlement to attend, and the vast majority actually do attend those schools. And although they follow the same curriculum, they still go through the key stages, they still sit their GCSE exams and their A-level exams. What you tend to find is that those class sizes are much larger. And of course, we do know the correlation between smaller class sizes and achievement, and obviously, the ability to be able to sort of focus more on individuals in a smaller class than a larger class. With regard to the grammar system, there are only out of 24,000 schools, state schools in the UK, less than 1% of those are actually grammar schools. And grammar schools are selective state schools. I suppose the advantages is that if if your child is particularly academic and can actually sort of stand that sort of teaching to the top, that sort of very high level academic sort of persistence, as it were, then they could do well there.
嗱，我知道咧英國有 selective 啦同埋 non-selective 嘅學校，其實咩嚟㗎？咁家長可以點幫我哋揀啊？
Yeah, okay. So the 2 categories are a selective school basically has an entry requirement. So it has a certain level that young people have to achieve before they sort of are accepted in it. And that sort of is usually a test, it's usually a percentage, and it's a very sort of straight line. A non-selective school, basically you would still have an entry test, but that entry test is far more for the school to sort of understand your strengths and weaknesses. It's to support their teaching and learning as opposed to say whether you are accepted for entry or not. I think sometimes the selective schools seem quite attractive to parents, particularly because by default, if you are selecting the top 25%, for example, of sort of the students sort of entering the school, by default, they will be sort of higher up in the sort of percentage rankings. But I think what's key with that is, does that suit your daughter? Does that suit your son? Because there are 2 elements within that. One is the level of teaching and learning that they'll actually experience, and also the subsequent testing. After that initial assessment test, for entry, do you then have to be tested after the first term, after the first year, to actually sort of keep your place there? And I think these are really important questions that parents need to ask at the beginning, so they actually know exactly what the sort of the format is before saying yes. I think a selective school is the one for my children.
咁我諗香港家長最想知道，到底英國教育制度同埋香港教育制度有啲咩差別嘅咧？
I think the key difference between the DSE system and the system in the UK is that the DS system still sort of requires students to have a broad subject knowledge at sort of quite a depth. And I suppose the difference that the UK options of the A-level programme and the IB programme is that the A-level programme does have that depth, but in a narrow subject format. So you only choose 3 A-levels, narrow but very, very deep. With the IB programme, it's a broader range of subjects, of maths, of science, of humanities, language, but the depth is much shallower. And what I would say the advantage of that is that whether you do less deep or more shallower, it gives you more time for a more rounded education. So more time for academic enrichment, more time for activities, more time for sport, more time for personal development. And I think that does allow young people to develop themselves into well-rounded, prepared young people for university and life beyond.
咁英國有啲咩好熱門嘅科目咧？其實
Most popular, I think certainly going into undergraduate, you're looking at medicine, you're looking at engineering, law, certainly computer engineering, as well sports science.
咁有唔少家長咧都會選擇咧幫小朋友安排咧去寄宿學校啊。咁其實英國寄宿學校點嘅咧？咁家長可以點幫佢哋揀啊？
I mean, initially, international students coming into the UK, I think in the first instance, it's a different culture. And I think that young people need to be prepared for that, be excited by it, definitely, but also be prepared that it is different. And that culture is not just necessarily within the school campus, it's certainly wider as well. I mean, directly in the school campus, it's the teaching and learning. The teaching and learning style will be different. Certainly, I hear a lot from students that they feel as though the UK system in particular is far more supportive than perhaps what they've had at home. The teachers spend more time with them, there's more focus on them. They feel more comfortable asking a question outside of lessons. So it's certainly in school directly. It's also things, for example, the practical in terms of weather, the practical in terms of food. And it's one of those where, I think all schools try to make sure that they have a very broad menu, to celebrate all cultures and nations' particular dishes. It's actually one of the things I enjoy most in school, when we actually go to lunch and you see, everybody, trying everyone else's dishes. It's lovely.
Mark 咧就係 EF Academy 英國牛津校長啦，佢嘅學生咧有嚟自超過75個國家。咁我想知道亞洲學生嘅比例係幾多咧
？Well, I'm incredibly proud of our international community, and we have a fantastic mix. So in total, it's about 30% Asian students, 60% European students, and then 10% the rest of the world.
咁 EF Academy 個辦學理念係點嘅咧？可唔可以分享俾啲家長聽？
So in school, what we're looking to do is that we're looking to challenge young people, challenge them to be their best, get to where they want to go to. And we basically do that by colliding them with as many different opportunities as possible, giving them the best possible teaching and learning, the activities, the academic enrichment, using the fact that we have Oxford, Oxford as our campus, and actually developing them into those global citizens and getting them to the university of their choice.
咁 EF Academy 咧係一間預科嘅學校啊，咁同 K-12 嘅學校有啲咩分別㗎？
So, I mean, we focus on the last 2-year groups of high school, and we have the A-level programme and the IB programme. And we are very much so pre-university. So all of our structure, our teaching and learning, our activities, the campus itself is set up just for that age range, 16, 17, 18. And I often use the expression, and I don't mean it unkindly, that we aren't distracted by younger students. And what I mean by that is that if we have 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds on campus, their time needs to be structured differently. Their curriculum has to be structured differently. And it would mean that you've got more than one focus. So I think our key difference is we are that pre-university experience. our makeup, our setup, and our format is purely focused on that particular age range. That pre-university preparation.
作為家長啦，送小朋友去外國讀書咧，其實即係又想得嚟，但係又好擔心。咁 EF Academy 咧有啲咩方法可以幫到啲家長咧？
Well, I mean, personally, I think it's a fantastic benefit, and I think it goes back to that question of, if parents sort of have some concerns about sort of, sending their daughter, sending their son to a boarding school overseas, they've got direct contact with people that, team members that actually work with the school. I mean, the fact that I'm sort of here now visiting them and that sort of communication that we have. But it's not just in those initial stages. It's, for example, if parents are concerned about, academic progress, they can talk to someone that literally talks to, members of staff in school on a daily basis. They know exactly who to call. They're also, we have 24 offices, and all of them, they're so actively involved in the school. They're there asking questions. How's this student getting on? Where are they up to? How did the school play go? And I just think sort of together, it's just another element to give both the family and the student support.
嗱，家長送咗小朋友去寄宿之後啊，梗係想佢哋一路咧讀上大學有更好發展啦。咁但係家長又唔喺佢身邊，咁又可以點幫到佢哋咧？其實
well, I'll start with the sort of the social integration, and I think if I'm honest with you, I think I'm very lucky. As a school, I think we are a small community. The students are very, very welcoming. We do, of course, have our welcome week and our welcome days where we put particular events on to encourage and stimulate sort of a community and people coming together. But I mean, if I'm completely honest, the young people that have come to the school, they very quickly gel together themselves, and it is a truly sort of family sort of community. With regard to sort of academics and university application, again, I think they're sort of, we can split those slightly. We have a Director of University Guidance, Dr. Mark Fletcher-Single, and his whole focus, his whole job is in supporting our students to get to the university of their choice. And we do many university open days. We have many sessions on UCAS applications, on applications sort of across the world as well. We have, for example, university interview rehearsals. I mean, I think they're very important as well. The personal statement development. We've got a fantastic academic enrichment program, which is so important now to ensure that students have a real sort of holistic application to university. It's not just about the academic results. Yes, you need excellent academic results, but you need everything around it. And I think sort of when parents ask, why should I send my daughter or son to EF Academy Oxford? That's the reason why. It's that package, that package around those excellent results. And of course, getting those excellent results, that comes from our one-to-one support, our pathway managers who meet with our students every other week for that holistic view of them. It's the academic tutors, it's the support from the pastoral team, it's the support from the academic heads of faculty. It really is, sort of working together, each element of the school working together to make sure that students, they're on that path, they're continually academically achieving in a supported environment while having a richer range of fun activities, academic enrichment with the university guidance.
嗱，家長送小朋友去第二個地方讀書咧，其實最希望佢哋咧學業同埋佢哋嘅課餘都能夠平衡發展啦。咁我想知道 EF Academy 有啲咩課活動可以俾到佢哋嘅咧？
So those sort of clubs and activities are incredibly important, both the after school, the during lunch and the weekend as well. And we actually have a dedicated activities coordinator. And we really set up both the after school program and the weekend program for what our students actually want to do. And those activities, they range from dissection club, which obviously our sort of medical students really enjoy, as well as things, for example, our language clubs, engineering, we have a virtual reality, coding, chess, as well as sort of the sports of swimming, of tennis, of climbing. So the range is vast. as well as those weekend ones, I feel particularly passionate about, because it's the time that you're giving the opportunity to students to structure downtime. I don't think having the whole weekend off is a positive. I think they need to be active during the weekend as well as resting and preparing for the next week. But those trips, we usually run a cycle of 4. And so in 1 week there'll be a city tour. It'll be to Birmingham, to Bath, to Liverpool, to get to see more of the UK. The second one will be something historical, so it'll be Buckingham Palace, the Tower of London, Blenheim Palace, Windsor Castle. A real come and see a bit more of the UK. The third one is always something sporty. What's popular at the moment is paintballing and bubble football, where they get in these big inflatable balls and go and play football. And the fourth cycle is we always ask students, what is it you would like to do? So we give them that option, whether it be, this particular month we all want to go to the cinema or we want to go bowling. But I think it's really important to make sure you're involving them in the activities they want to do.
Oh, can I join your boarding school myself?
Absolutely.
我聽到自己都好想讀啦。咁但係想問翻 Mark 啊，有冇啲幫我咁多海外嘅學生升學啊？有冇啲成功同埋好難忘嘅例子可以分享下咧？
Well, there are so many successful stories or memorable students that I have, and it's lovely, particularly in things like assembly, where some of our Hong Kong students would actually be playing the piano. You see the students sat there championing them, they're behind them, they want to do well. And one that always makes me smile was Harry, who ended up performing at our graduation ceremony, Hotel California. And despite being so nervous, he stood there and it was absolutely fantastic. And he had every single student, every single parent and every single faculty member behind him throughout the whole song. And I think that will stay with me for a very long time.
Oh, sounds great. 好，多謝晒 Mark 嘅分享。Thank you for sharing.
No, thank you very much indeed.
好，多謝晒 Mark 嘅分享啊！咁其實咧，我諗睇完成段片咧，大家感覺到呢個就好似等同一個咧英國升學嘅全面 Q&A 啊！咁相信咧，家長睇完之後，應該都知道下一步點做。而我自己咧都獲益良多，好希望咧喺英國再見到 Mark 啊！提一提大家。EF Academy 咧不時咧都會舉行一啲咧就係升學嘅講座啊！咁如果想知多啲嘅話咧，大家留意咯喎！與同時更加咧就可以安排1對1嘅諮詢 ，EF Academy 嘅團隊咧絕對可以幫到大家。我哋下次再見，拜拜！
拜拜。